You're locked in and listening to the Wandering Yinzers podcast, hosted by Anson, Lance, and Chris. You can find them on X at Yinzer Anson, at Steel City Lance, and at Chris_Furlan. Check out our community page with the hashtag Wandering Yinzers to stay up to date with all things Steelers. Grab a seat, get cozy. Yins don't want to miss this.
All right, good afternoon, Steeler Nation. It's the Wandering Yinzers. We're back with episode 4. I am Lance, at Steel City Lance, with Chris, as always, at Chris Furlan. And we're... Go ahead.
I was just saying hi.
Hi. Hello. And we are very excited to introduce our new co-host, Anson, at Yinzer Anson. Welcome, Anson. How are you today?
I'm so good. If I was any better, I would be Chris Furlan. I'll tell you what, man.
Perfect. All right. So, that being said, let's get into it, fellas. Last week's Chargers game. Let's get with Chris and your thoughts on how that Chargers game went.
Well, going into it, I had been assuming it would be a low-scoring affair. The over-under was like 34.5 points, and I said it was probably going to be under that, and it was, but that's only because they slid at the end instead of going into the end zone. It could have easily been 27-10. That was the most dominant win I've seen out of this team in a minute.
Yeah. What do you think, Anson?
Absolutely took advantage of the game. I thought in the third and fourth quarter, Najee, like you mentioned, Chris, could have scored and decided to run over the corner for the Chargers and instill his will upon him. And I love to see the physicality. I think we need to continue that into this Colts game.
Right on. Yeah,
this was the first 3-game win streak of Justin Fields' career.
Very nice.
That's wild.
Who's the last Steeler to do it?
Duck Hodges.
Gambling websites are in shambles recently, would you say? With the Dallas game the other night, missed field goal at the end of the game.
Yeah, how bad does Brandon Aubrey feel?
Yeah. Pittsburgh not putting that in. I didn't realize you said it would have went over if they would have scored that touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the gamblers are just not the NFL, man. It's just it's funny like that sometimes. I was impressed with the Chargers team, to be honest with you. Their first half. Their first half. Mm-hmm. And with Justin Herbert being injured, you kind of expected them to be a little boxed in there. And he went out and went 5 for 5 right on the first drive. Or on that drive down the field, scored a touchdown there and just looked sharp, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of had you, as a fan, you're kind of like, listen, I know, Chris, you were a little, and I was like, listen, settle down. It's the first quarter.
At one point, I said, fellas, we are not good. And then not 15 minutes later, I said, fellas, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like, I think coaching in the NFL matters, and it's evident with the teams that consistently win with the talent that they're given. Pittsburgh's one of those teams that has the ability to win games close with just the talent that they have. You know what I mean?
They're playing to their strengths. You love to see that.
Arthur Smith, one of the top play callers in the NFL this season. You'd love to see him, being shown, given his flowers over the last several weeks based on the analytics. I think a lot of Atlanta fans are kind of starting to just fall back on it, and understand it's the NFL.
Yeah, it's a business at the end of the day. Arthur Smith had to make the decision whether or not he was going to continue to go down a road where he was losing or make a change and come to Pittsburgh and potentially have a really, really good group of guys that can go do something special.
The OC has been a great move for him. Some guys they don't have it as a head coach, but if you give them their coordinator duty and they're just on it.
Right. I think you have to give guys that do well as coordinators the opportunity to succeed as NFL head coaches because they've earned that right. But it's also at the end of the day, a lot of people will diminish their resume because they had what have you done for me now? And as a head coach, they might have failed in those positions. A lot of teams don't believe that the head coaches give up play calling responsibilities. They or whatever, but you got to think the weight of those situations as a head coach as opposed to being an offensive coordinator. It's a much different situation. So you'd love to see how Arthur has really grown, gone back to his roots as what he did well in Tennessee, and get the absolute most out of Justin Fields, who's at 73% completion percentage right now, I think.
Right.
Incredible.
I'm thrilled with Arthur Smith and his game plans and his usage of players. I mean, Calvin Austin had 95 yards. Who's complaining about that?
Not me.
Right. I mean, and we can get into it. I'm the whole thing with Calvin Austin, he's not a 2 to me. I don't think I really wanted to, as a fan, I wanted to just believe that we had the guy. Roman Wilson also is concerning to me, because how's a guy that's supposed to be so tough is it development? Is Roman Wilson not ready to play in the NFL? Does he need more development, or is he still has he not shown enough on the field yet to be able to get a hat on Sunday?
I think it's more of a matter of when he got injured, to be honest. He got hurt the first day of pads, so he missed all the key development stages. So they're not trying to get him into the game as soon as he's ready. They're gonna give him
right. They're gonna make sure
he's more time.
And that's up to speed.
I hope that doesn't sound like I'm like knocking Calvin Austin. I like Calvin Austin. I like any Steelers player. I like them all. But Calvin Austin's had a long time and a bunch of opportunities to explode and blow out, and show out. And he just, last week was a great game, man. And
last week was a great game, and we had the game against, I forget who the opponent was, but when Jaylen Warren blocked the guy and, pancaked him, and Calvin Austin had a touchdown, we were using him as a gadget guy, and he can be more than that. I mean, we saw it during the Chargers game, rip him down the seam.
Sideline catch.
Yeah, he had a sideline catch. It was great. He's a good player. But I think, to your point, Lance, we just also need another guy that's explosive that can help us out.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying that it happens this year. As a fan, you want him to go get somebody like Devontae Adams, right?
What about big-time Scotty Miller? We got big-time Scotty.
He was clutch. He came up with 2 really good catches last game in the Chargers game and helped us out get some key conversions.
Both of them first downs on scoring drives, too.
Yeah.
And if you go back to what Arthur Smith does and does well, it's run the ball, possess the ball, don't turn the football over. Pittsburgh right now, time of possession, and I'm just ripping this off a stat sheet here. 33-55 time of possession in 2024. Go back to 2023, it's 29-28 time of possession on offense, average over the 17 games. What and that leads you into what, guys? When you possess the ball more, your defense is more rested. I want to give credit to this guy, Alex Kozora, at Alex Kozora _Kozora. Steelers defense, talented group. They're also well rested. Last season, Steelers defense logged 214 plays through 3 weeks. This year, it's 151 plays. That's 63 games. That's an entire game not played for the Steelers defense this season.
Huge. That's what's helping them. They've given up 2 touchdowns in 3 games, none of them in the second half. They've given up 6 total points in the second half across all 3 games this year. And that's because they're finally, for once, playing well rested. They've never got to do that since we've had the 3 levels of all-pro caliber players in Minka, Tim, and DJ.
Right. And Anson, I think you can tell the relevance between what that does for the what's the offense is doing for our defense, the defense is giving in return. You can, I think, agree that those things correlate together.
Absolutely. It's directly correlated. It's why we're winning games. It's why we're 3-0. It's because we can actually have a rested defense that can perform as the number 1 defense in the league, which they are.
Late in the game.
Late in the game when it matters. That's why TJ got a garbage time sack against Kirk Cousins. That's why he got a sack against Justin Herbert in the end of the third quarters, because he's fresh. He's coming off the sideline fired up because the offense is actually performing. The offense isn't losing us the game, which is a lot more than we could say for the Canada era.
Were there okay? So going back to, I'm sorry, Chris, we got something?
Raise your hand if you had more yards in the second half than the Chargers did. Chargers had -5 yards in the second.
I was running to get to the Twitter app to talk my shit. That's what I was doing. I was making first downs on that. But I mean, you can. There's a laundry list of things that happened in the Chargers game that you could be encouraged with. I think one of the things that you're kind of like, oh no, what happened? Highsmith gets hurt. Herbig comes in. And
Next
I
man
think
up
a lot of
mentality.
people had this really good feeling about it beginning of the season when we were watching these guys in preseason and in camp. You're like, Herbig is just as good as those other guys. I mean, he's not yet TJ Watt, but do I think his ceiling is like TJ Watt? You know?
Herbig is the number one edge starter on
Yeah,
28
his ceiling
NFL
is him,
teams.
you know? And so I think you got that guy. And Highsmith goes down, and you're like, well, I know Herbig can get to the quarterback. Can he stop the run? He stops the run well. He's doing, and he knew that was something that, you watched that interview in the locker room this week, and I don't know if you guys have that or not, but he was interviewed in the locker room this week, and he said, I'm supposed to be last. I'm always supposed to be last. He has that in him. He is never going to be satisfied. The kid is an absolute Steeler. Like, he's the kind of guy that when you're a kid, you're like, man, that's who I want to be when I grow up. Just like that dude.
Right. Definitely. Somebody ripping around the edge that gets you fired up when you see them play. TJ does the same thing. Minka does the same thing. We got a lot of people on the field that can be explosive and can impact. And it doesn't hurt that through most of training camp, James Harrison was out there teaching Nick Herbig how to do stuff,
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cough in you.
That's okay. This game, J.K. Dobbins was 9.9 yards per attempt. This week, you had 44 yards on 14 attempts. That's an elite front seven, boys.
Yeah, the Chargers' last game, total rushes attempts was 20. Total yards gained through rushes was 61. It resulted in 0 touchdowns. Pittsburgh had 31 total rushes for 114 yards and 1 total touchdown. So running the game matters, guys.
Yeah,
running the ball matters.
Both sides.
And so let me lead into that a little bit. So we saw a little bit more of Cordero Patterson in the Chargers game. We're expecting to see a lot more of him in the game on Sunday. What did you like seeing in that type of? I'll be honest with you. Cordero is a big old boy, and he runs straight downhill. As soon as he gets that ball, man, he finds a spot, and he just hits that spot. And I mean,
fast.
I don't know,
he's
dude.
So
he's
fast,
such a big
man.
guy, man.
It's because of his prolific, career in the return game. He's a return guy, so he knows exactly what kind of a hole is going to open on the field and how he can burst through it. And that's what they practice all week long. That's what he's practiced for his long career. It's easy to see his success,
You see a different style. You see that style of run in a different style in all three of them. Najee is one of those guys who almost looks for contact, which you love that about a football player that wants to just go hit somebody. Jalen is the guy similar to Cordero, who as soon as he sees something, he's going. He don't fall back. He falls forward. He spins out. He is a moving, shifty guy. And then Cordero is the same way, where he gets that ball, he hits that hole at the same time, except he probably weighs 50 pounds more than Jalen. And if he hits you, you're going backwards, right now. I just wanted to make this call on the pod. I started Cordero Patterson in my fantasy league this week because I think we're going to run all over the Colts this weekend. And I think that Cordero is going to see a lot more touches. I think they'll use him a little bit more in different spaces. I think they'll push him out wide maybe. I think they'll bring him in the backfield with Najee. You might see some stuff like that. He's going to have a good game. I believe this is his welcome. I'm here. I'm still here. I'm Cordero Patterson.
Yeah. Nothing's changed for him. He's still going full speed, and especially with Jalen Warren out this week, he's definitely going to see more touches, more time.
Right. So last but not least for the Chargers game, and I don't want to get too excited about the future Hall of Famer, but I'd like to talk a little bit about Pittsburgh's new center, Chris. I want you to if you could speak to that for a few minutes, Anson, after him, if you could speak a little bit about what you think about Zach Frazier's performance so far. Let's throw PFF out the door because we hate PFF, but PFF is just swinging on Mr. Frazier right now. So, yeah, let's speak to him a little bit.
So, actually, it's funny real quick that you mentioned PFF. They came out with a new stat there, their chip rate. And as expected, TJ has 44%, double the next guy. So
yeah, easily.
Still doesn't make up for their other bullshit, but we're not gonna.
They sucked so bad last year. They blew it so bad last year that they had to make some bullshit up to kind of justify bringing TJ back so that they can say TJ Watt's the best player. And that's all they did. They fucked it up last year, so they wanted to make a stat up for him for this year.
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
Last year was
not forgiven.
Trophy.
Yeah, you still suck, PFF.
Yeah, boy. Jack Frazier, that man is a bully, man. His wrestling background shows. He is just beating people up every play, just falling on top of guys, just making them look silly, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of you guys know about Ben Roethlisberger's podcast. We recently had Marquise Pouncey on.
Right.
And Marquise gave Zach Frazier that seal of approval. Like, this is your guy. And obviously always saying, oh, you gotta give somebody 3 years, but good sign so far. Marquise is saying, this is our guy, man.
I think for a position of that nature, like, you see it pretty early on, it's physical ability, but it's also like the smarts. You watch Frazier, and if you get these all 22 clips and you're watching him, he doesn't quit on a play until that whistle's blown, and a lot of time he's winning. He's winning, like, a lot. You don't catch him not winning these plays. So, Anson, I mean, you went from, okay, let's talk about this. Anson, let me ask you this specifically.
Okay.
Do you remember when Marquise Pouncey went down and we brought in that center from Tennessee?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember that season? I can't, and I'm sorry to that player because he was phenomenal for Pittsburgh that season, and I don't want to be disrespectful to him, but it took him a while to get up to speed, and then you look back on this season and you say, okay, in camp we lose Herbig, who's presumably going to start at center because he's got seniority and that's how Tomlin runs his game. So how, after knowing how hard it is to be an NFL center, how you've seen some guys not do it well, last season, with Mr. Cole, you've seen how a center can be bad. How would you grade Zach or what kind of a grade would you give Mr. Frazier over the first 3 weeks so far? And how do you expect that to continue throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. We said we were going to disregard PFF, but they constantly have him in high 80s or at least low 90s as far as grade goes per game. Mm-hmm. He's had an immediate impact because he's had to. He's got the mentality that you need from the center, somebody that's going to come out on the field every play and is going to lead the charge, is going to get the ball back. We had a little bit of snap issues early, late preseason and through the first game and first drive of the second game, but fixed that stuff up. He's good in space. Chris mentioned he's got the wrestling background, so he has the ability to turn guys and shift their weight against them and make impactful plays. He's smart. He's fast. He's out there making calls. He's athletic. I have nothing but high praise for Zach Frazier. He is going to be one of the greats.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love the confidence because, I think a lot of these players, and I'm not going to diminish what Zach Frazier has done so far. I think we all love what he's accomplished so far. But I think a lot of this stuff is confidence, right? In my opinion, as a human, you think, well, I'm going to go in my first 3 games and I'm winning every down. I'm winning against these guys. So I'm starting to build that confidence. You see the players buying in around you that are starting to build you up. Then your coaches are starting to notice they're building you up. Now the fan base is talking about you like you might be the next, Marquise Pouncey.
Right. And to that point, it goes back to the culture thing, right? Pittsburgh is a place that breeds winners. And you have somebody like Marquise Pouncey who did it at a high level for 10 years or more. Come in and be able to give a little bit of leadership, mentorship to somebody who's fresh out of college and is starting in the NFL now. To be able to have that confidence and that leadership behind you as a player, as a young player, I'm sure is like, it speaks volumes because you see it on the field.
Right. Definitely. All right. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to move past the Chargers game without speaking a lot of praise for Zach because we needed that. In order for us to succeed and make it to the goal, which is the Super Bowl. Um, the offensive line has to stay healthy, it has to gel, which they have, and they've also had some key injuries. Um, but you've seen them have success with who they have, so that encourages you moving forward. So you love to see that guy come in. You love to hear, even though Troy went down to the IR, you love to hear everyone talk about him like he's the future at that position. Um, so we're encouraged by that, but I would be remiss if I didn't speak on how great he played, and he was felt. And last thing, the Pittsburgh flu. Okay, real quick, and I should have had this stuff up real quick, but I would like to look into the Chargers injury report.
I've got it up.
Just
Okay,
on
pull it.
the head,
So,
Herbert banged up, Bosa banged up, banged up.
when you come to play Pittsburgh, you're going to leave with bandages and bruises and things of that
He's
nature.
associated with play.
You want the injury report for the Chargers game?
Yeah, kick that to us, Anson, if you don't mind. There we this chart.
Fellas want to hand out some game balls.
Yeah, we'll do that right after he pulls up the injury report. We'll go for game balls. But I wanted to make sure that I talked about the Pittsburgh flu before.
So concluding the Pittsburgh Steelers game, the Los Angeles Chargers are confirming that Joey Bosa is out with a hip injury. Junior Colson is out with a hamstring injury. And then we've got 6 guys questionable, including Joe Alt at tackle. He's got a knee. We've got Darius Davis with a hamstring, wide receiver. You've got Christian Fulton, corner, with a knee. You've got Justin Herbert at your QB with a high ankle sprain. That's going to be a lingering issue, I think, for him for maybe the rest of the season. We could see limited play from Herbert for the rest of the year because of that high ankle.
With all is that everybody? Anson?
No, there's 2 more. Deanne Leonard at DB hamstring, and then you got Jasir. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Mr. Taylor at DB with a fibula injury. It's the first time I've seen fibula on the IR report.
So, with that being said, I would like to say this is not a hate or a disrespect to those men that are injured. I hope that you all heal quickly and efficiently and you're back on the field in no time. But this is just a notice that when you come to play Pittsburgh, you leave battered and bruised.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, on to the next. Let's give away some game balls. I'd like to start being that it's Anson's first episode, why we not give him his flowers and let him choose the game balls for the Chargers game. I'm going to call them the San Diego Chargers because I'm old.
I still have a hard time with that one.
Struggle there.
We'll do an offense and a defense, if that's all right with you, Chris.
Okay. On offense, I'm going to give my game ball to Mr. Mason McCormick, who came in and played right guard for us for the majority of the game. I thought he did an excellent job. He's also a rookie off of this current draft class, and he's also a dog, and I can't wait for him to get more reps. And going back to the thing we said, I think it's important for young guys to have that leadership mentality and have that people there with them that can teach them. And so having Isaac Saimalu back soon is going to be super important. Defensive ball of the game goes for me to JPJ, who had 3 solo tackles, one of which was a tackle for loss. I thought that he is massively improved in the tackling game, and we already know what his passing lockdown game looks like. So JPJ gets my defensive game ball.
Well done, Anson. All right, Chris, what do you have?
I'm going to give my offensive game ball to Broderick Jones. Big bounce back game. Big pancake on Joey Bosa to open it up. One of 2 plays Joey Bosa was in. He got that and he said, I had enough.
Do you want me to pull that up for you, Chris?
Please do.
Okay, yeah.
That pancake is great.
It was really nice to see Broderick Jones after he's had a rough camp. He had a rough preseason. And
do you remember what?
Him too. A lot of media talk about how bad Broderick Jones was, and then for him to bounce back and be absolutely solid is huge. Because
so good.
I
don't mean to interrupt you, Chris. You can keep talking. Do you remember what drive that was, though? That he got that
opening drive.
It was the very first play.
It was the very first play after kickoff, right?
I believe so.
All right, let me look here real quick.
Extremely early on, if not the first play.
Okay, that's not that's their. All right, here, let's see here.
He got
So
off in a big way.
let me look here real quick just before I pull it up because I think this is the play. Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, all right. So how do you want to watch this? We can watch it in a couple of different views, but let me pull it up here real quick and share it. This play, it's quite funny. All right, so I'll start from the beginning of the play. I'll just let it run there. If you watch 77 up top, he's just going to lay on top of him.
Full weight on top of him, and
All
Joey
right,
had enough of him there.
so let's go back. Let's look at a different view. Let's look at the end zone view and check that out.
Yeah, the end zone view is the good one. Watch over there on the left side of y'all's screen. I'm just going to take you back here to the end zone and put you on your ass.
Take a little bit of a nap.
And you're mine. It looked like Joey was like laying down taking a nap, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Maybe showed up and didn't want to play.
So that was your excellent choice for an offensive game ball. Who did you decide for your defensive game ball?
Old man, Cam Hayward. Anybody who doubted that man better be apologizing right now.
Yep.
Right
Yep.
now. He
Cam
still
has
has
been
it.
electric.
He's still a top 5 D lineman, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down, man.
I think that a lot of people talk because that's what they want to do. One thing is for sure is any of the NFL teams can fork up any amount of money they want to. They can move money around however they want. So when you pay somebody, is because you want to in the NFL. Them paying Cam said, we want you here. Him taking an offer like that said, I want to play for you and be here. And so when that happened, you kind of felt, and you can look back when he signed the contract, everyone was like, here we go. Cam's back, and he's going to come out here and he's going to show you why he deserved that money, he deserved the contract that he wanted. Cam's not going to sign something he don't want. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. So when he signed that, he was happy with it. So that's what I felt like when he got that contract, that he must have been happy with it. And so he's going to come out and he's going to show why I'm worth that contract. And week ago, and week after week, he's shown why he's where he's at. He's been him for a long time. I can remember his days at Ohio State. So
yeah, Cam is a motor. He's nothing but a V8 engine out there. He's a big ass body that's gonna move you and is gonna impact the game. And he is part of the culture and is one of the best defensive linemen there ever was.
So go ahead, Chris.
Lance, you want to get the game ball route?
Yeah, for sure. So for the offensive side of the ball, I am very happy with Justin Fields. This week's easily I could give Justin Fields a game ball each and every week for just playing the way he's playing, and I don't care about stats right now because I know what he's capable of. I know the kind of athlete that we have in Justin Fields. So like the touchdowns and stuff like that kind of comes with time. Like we talked about earlier, we don't know who our second wide receiver is. I think there's time for them to show themselves. But right now, Justin's playing with one arm behind his back, and he's playing above average.
He's playing clean. He's winning from the pocket. You can't hate that.
A lot of it goes back to scheme as well. Arthur Smith is calling smart plays and good plays that are going to get us down the field efficiently, and he's not having to make things up and force things.
You could go back, and I don't know if I said this at the time, if I was just being gullible or whatever. I might have been okay with Matt Canada at the time, but that's just being a fan of a team and wanting them to do well regardless. If sometimes you're really blind to shit. But looking into it and talking to you guys, Chris and Freddie a lot at the beginning of the season, we talked about what Arthur Smith did in Tennessee way more often than we talked about what he did in Atlanta. And he's just proven us right and proven himself right week in and week out. My defensive game ball this week is Herbig. I've been on Herbig since for a while. I didn't realize how much of a stud he was before this season, but as when I went to camp, I realized he's a dog.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. Big early strip, almost it was strip sack, no recovery early on in the game, and then comes in after Highsmith goes down and just gets another one, dumps him right down. I mean, like he had been in the game fresh the whole time.
Yeah.
Let's go. I mean, let's be real here.
Yeah. Let's go
Herbig's motor runs more than anyone on the team besides TJ. Let's be real here.
In Wisconsin.
And I don't want to talk about another man's money, but I think that contracts have a lot to do with why we haven't seen as much of Herbig already. I think the coaches know what kind of an athlete he is. I think coaches know that if we didn't have 2 all-pro ability guys already, he'd be starting. I don't think they're surprised at all by what he does. Neither am I at this point. He's done really well. So, Justin Fields, super impressed with how he came. He knew we had to answer after that score. LA goes down, scores a touchdown on a busted play. Justin drives right down the field, scores another touchdown. We needed that. I screamed at my TV, "Fuck yes!" Loud. My son came down the stairs and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not." I was excited because I knew that we needed that, and Justin came through right then and there, and you knew this game is not over. This game, I told you, Chris. I told you right then and there, settle down. We're all right. All right.
Let's go to the Colts.
Yeah, so before we get to the Colts game, I want to get into injuries that we got. I'm sorry, real quick. Injuries from
the Colts
Chargers game, injury report from our game heading into the Colts, and then any trade. I want to address any trade rumors that we might have heard this week that we expect that may happen next week, or something that we would like to happen next week. To add into that, just because we might as well throw it in there while we're talking. So, Anson, can you throw the injury report out to us real quick?
Absolutely. Heading into the Lad House, right? We're headed to Indianapolis this week to face the Colts. We are looking at Ryan Kelly for the Colts. Their center is questionable with a neck injury. You got Chris Lamons, a corner with a knee and an ankle, who's also questionable. Tyquan Lewis, one of their DNs, has a calf and wrist that he's dealing with. He's also questionable. We got Kenny Moore, the second cornerback, with a hip. You got Kwity Paye, who is ruled out. And then you got Braden Smith, questionable. And my boy Grant Stewart. Shout out to Grant Stewart. Quick story. I actually sold that guy a Tundra at my car dealership that I work at. I swear to God, it's on my Instagram.
I sold that guy a dime bag one time.
No. I sold him a truck. I sold him a truck.
That's cool, man.
He had a heel injury on Monday that he was looking at, but he was a full participant in practice, so Grant Stewart will play. Shout out to you, Grant. Steelers injury report: Russell Wilson still questionable with the calf. I think we're going to continue to see him on the questionable report. Roman Wilson is calf tightness. Yeah, Roman Wilson was a full participant Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but we'll see if he gets a hat. Van Jefferson had an eye poke on during the Chargers game. He's full participant. Najee Harris is good to go. He had a sling, they said, on Monday, but he's fine. Only other people that are listed out for us are Jaylen Warren and Alex Highsmith. And we've got Isaac Seumalo, who is listed as doubtful. So everybody else should be good to go. A couple of the guys got some veteran rest. We're looking good headed into the Colts game. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
So we got the next man up. Jaylen Warren, we got the next man up. I feel comfortable with the depth of this team for the first time in a long time.
So I think
we also signed
the two offensive linemen,
right tackle from the Patriots squad. Sorry to cut you off, Lance. We signed that guy from the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's
we've
his
got
name?
Another
Hendrickson?
depth piece. Yeah, we got another depth piece.
Yeah, for a guy that everyone calls dumb, I got a pretty good memory. I think I read that name once. Anyways, so trade rumors. I don't really care if we get a wide receiver too, but I think that if we do get somebody that's good, it definitely takes you to the contender spot instead of where we're at right now, which is almost contenders in my opinion. In the NFL,
contenders.
But in the NFL, I made my prediction that the Steelers that they would go to the Super Bowl and win because I'm a huge fan and I don't give a shit if I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, like I think adding a wide receiver too is crucial before the trade deadline, man. And that's just me looking at the stats. Obviously, when I watch the game, I see it as well, but I'm an untrained eye. Those guys, if I'm being real, like I obviously see it, but like who am I? The stats don't lie though, and we're not getting any separation away from except from Pickens, who doesn't get much separation because he loves contested catches.
Right.
So when a Pickens
quietly
makes a
having a
catch,
great year.
oh, what did you say?
He's quietly having a great year, George
There's
Pickens.
nothing quietly about it. He will be the leader in the AFC North by the end of it. And anyone that thinks that he won't be is not a ball knowing son of a bitch, because they just he's better than everyone else in the AFC North, hands down.
He is. I think we need to scheme for him a little more. I think we need to feed him the ball a little bit more. Only because, like, you look at the Bengals game that they ended up losing. I forget what the end of the Bengals game was, but Jamar Chase had 2 touchdown receptions. You know,
they lost.
They lost.
They lost.
I think we need to get George the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
Personally, just so that he can continue to have a great year. But I mean, the stats and the numbers are going to rack up for George no matter what. If you throw him a 3 out of 10 ball, he's going to make it an 8 out of 10 ball. You know, he's that good at creating those types of plays, and he does it on such a natural natural gift, and he does it so often that he makes it look unimpressive. You know what I mean? He does it so often that you're like, oh, it's just George being George.
I'm really bad at this too, so let's just reel this back in here to a trade rumor type of a conversation.
Oh, sure.
Obviously, we need that wide receiver too. Okay, there has been swirling about one of her DeAndre Hopkins come up, which I honestly bring him in. Bring him in. I'll take D Hop all day over any of them, even Devontae right now. One, because Devontae. Well, I would take Devontae too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, don't lie.
Silly me. Okay, Deion. Yes. Okay, but does. Yes. Yeah. I'd be stupid to say that. Truly, my only reason behind saying I would want D Hop is for being cheaper, but I don't even know if that's true. That was just me making an assumption.
Yeah, I think trading from Tennessee instead of Los Angeles or Vegas,
and being that it's really more about having a veteran leader than anything else. You put D Hop in the same type of position that you would put Devontae Adams in. You're expecting them to both make the same type of play.
Right. It just
win a 50-50, get separation in the middle of the field, stuff like that, I think is what you'd expect them to do. Better than what we've had, or win at the outside the numbers, which we only have. Well, no, that's not true, man. We look at Calvin Austin's history before the season. He's had a bunch of big plays, explosives. I mean, so you expect him to have more explosives.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was saying a little bit earlier. We've only used him gadget wise, but we can use him more explosively. But to your point, I think talking about trades, we've seen D Hop a little bit. We've seen DeAndre Hopkins a little bit. That's the same person I just mentioned twice. Sorry. We've seen D Hop a little bit. We've seen Devontae Adams a little bit. We've seen Christian Kirk a little bit. I've seen Cortland Sutton out there, someone from Denver that Russ has history with that we could bring back, and they have an immediate connection.
And DJ Moore. I want to add DJ Moore in there. I want to ask you this: if you could catch them all for the same price, which one, Anson, would you prefer to have, and why is that the player that you would want to add at this point?
I personally would prefer to have Devontae Adams because he, number one, last year had the highest amount of targets of any receiver in the league. And he's, I think, at this point in his career, a better ball catcher and more explosive yak than somebody like D-Hop would be.
Okay. Even with DJ Moore on that list, you feel like still Devontae Adams over DJ Moore?
Yes.
Chris,
DJ Moore
you're shaking your head.
I'm with him 100%, with you, Anson, 100%.
So, Mike, I guess I like whatever. I like the fact that DJ Moore's played with Justin Fields. I like the fact that DJ Moore is not the same build and body style as what George Pickens is. And you get more of a different look. I think it adds, some, what is the word I'm looking for there? instead of having the same type of deal,
I
it adds a variety to it. Exactly, like
get
so.
that. I get that side.
And so, like, Devontae Adams seems like the guy that you would obviously want because of his pedigree.
Yeah.
But I think that if I was to get Devontae or DJ Moore, or even a guy really that just had a few seasons of a couple 800-yard seasons, I'd be really happy with a guy. Just somebody proven, I think, at this point right now would be great to have in that spot. T. Higgins comes to mind too.
Yeah, T. Higgins, he's
if Cincinnati goes 0-4, right? Let's put it to you. Okay, here's my next question. Last question before we get into week 4. If Cincinnati goes 0-4, do you think they shop T. Higgins? Do you think Pittsburgh goes after T. Higgins? And do you think Cincinnati would even entertain a trade for that?
Yes, no.
Just a yes, no. And I agree. It's probably that way. Because if you're Pittsburgh, you're not trading away one of your top pieces to your division rival either. But, I do think they do try to trade T. Higgins. I do think Pittsburgh's interested, and I do think it might get done if they go 0-4. I think 0-4 is damning for them.
I
just like 1-3
I don't
is
think
for
they
Cincinnati.
give them to I just don't think they give them to a rival.
I think if if Cleveland loses this week and goes to 1-3, the route's on, buddy. The route's fucking on. If you lose to Las Vegas without Max Crosby and without Devontae Adams because he's not playing this weekend, the route is on, fellas. Cleveland is just another ass team. You know what I mean? Right now, they're still an ass team, but they got to win, which they should easily be 0-3. I mean, beating Jacksonville was the biggest joke this season.
Yeah, beating Jacksonville was their AFC Championship this year.
I think me, Anson, and Chris could go out and fucking grab a couple homeless people from San Francisco and beat the fucking Jacksonville Jaguars right now. Anyways,
I don't look it, but I'm explosive.
All right, so yeah, let's look forward. We have week 4 matchup. It's at Indianapolis, 1:00. Pittsburgh plays. You already got the injury report from Anson. Some key guys are down. We have a couple questionably down. I know that the Kelly kid, questionable. And then I thought, is that the center, Anson?
Ryan Kelly is their center. Yeah, he's out with the neck.
And then I thought there was another offensive lineman as well that may have been, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, Braden Smith, their tackle, is questionable with a knee injury. Okay. He did not practice Wednesday or Friday.
So that's again, what kind of, I saw this on Twitter, so don't, I'm stealing this, but whatever black magic voodoo shit Mike Tomlin did to the NFL this season, where he's getting all these fucking games like this, it's great for us as fans, great for you guys as players. The rest of the NFL thinks we're all a bunch of scrubs, but
they think we're contenders. I think the real, they use it as an excuse. Oh, everybody was saying that we were going to lose the Falcons game, and then we won the Falcons game. They said, well, the Falcons aren't that good.
Yeah,
everybody said we were going to lose the second game, and then we won the second game, and they said, oh, well, they're not even a good team. Yeah. And then they said the same thing last
You notice
game.
After the Steelers beat your ass, you go out and you win a game? You ever notice that?
It humbles you.
It humped, like, okay, Falcons go out and whoop some ass after we go in there. Week 2 they get a win. Then the Denver Broncos take another week, but they go out and get a fucking win finally. Beat the dog shit out of Tampa Bay. You know what I mean? You ever notice it? Just maybe Pittsburgh has to knock some fucking sense into you guys.
That's what it's looking like.
So yeah, we got some things obviously we can talk about. We can talk about Cordero Patterson going in half, most likely with Najee, since that seems to be Arthur Smith's style, is to split time with these guys. It's almost like every other drive they're splitting. You know what I mean? What do you think about that? Cordero Patterson is obviously I don't know. It's not appropriate to call him like the return guy god, but he is one of those guys that gets downhill and runs 100 yards to a touchdown, and he does it consistently. That's why you like to see him get the ball and just hit that hole. He looks fresh. He looks like he's got young legs compared to some of these guys. They don't know what to do with the guy. He's huge.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to be put to the test this week with Warren being out. He's going to likely see a significant increase in time. So hopefully those legs.
You like his hands young. Too. You like
Yes,
his hands because he
absolutely.
contrasts with what Najee. I mean, Najee's got good hands too, but Jalen's that guy that they like to swing out with a little slip screen, bam, hit him and down he goes. So you like that Cordero has great hands too, so you know you're not skipping a beat when Jalen's not in the lineup.
Yeah, this feels like the first time in a long time that we have enough depth to really feel comfortable with the people that we can kind of rotate in and out, both on offense and on defense. I think that that's something that's been missing for a long time. We had to rely on some
Yeah.
guys in certain areas for the whole season, just because there really wasn't anybody else that could step up and do that for us. But this year
Yeah.
feels different. This year feels special.
So I'm on the PFF right now actually.
Gross.
Um, but a lot of these numbers indicate that their team does not stop the run very well.
Run defense has been say.
So it says they don't stop the run very well, and it says their offense, which that's a different graph, but their offense is full of explosives, right? So it's either boom or bust with this Indianapolis Colts team right now. I think one advantage that they think they have is it's at home in the Lighthouse, which we all know how Pittsburgh travels. Their fans love to go to games, so we'll see about that. Maybe we'll have Ant on a silent count in the first quarter. We'll see.
That would be wild.
That would be one of those things you look back on. Okay, so we think we're going to run the ball. We got to stop the run and we got to stop the run and the explosive pass because we know Ant's full of that. If we can do that, which we've been consistent at doing, what other concerns? I have the officiating crew information here that we can share. But if you want to speak to anything else that you could think of, like that we need to do well at in the game, because I think to me it's as simple as running the football, the play action pass off of that, and have good defense, and we're going to beat them by 2 touchdowns.
I think a key matchup is Quentin Nelson and Cam Hayward. That
Mm-hmm.
is the best pass blocking guard in the NFL. No pressures given up on 87 snaps, 87 pass rush snaps.
So let me slide over here and see if I can find it real quick.
While you find that, Lance, the Indianapolis Colts, just real quick for you guys, through 3 games, have 36 completions through the air on 73 attempts for a 49.3% completion rating. So not a lot of completions being made downfield, even with Anthony Richardson's insane arm talent. I think if they can, or rather, if we can force Anthony Richardson to make mistakes and throw the ball squarely downfield, we're going to win this game with mostly defense. We don't really have to do anything on offense because their run defense is not great. And no offense to their guys, but their secondary is not great. And I think that Justin can slice and dice, and Najee and Cordero can pound the rock and keep them honest.
You said Quentin Nelson? Was that who you were looking at?
Go ahead.
So his offensive grading for PFF is insane. His pass block grading is insane. And that's a consistent theme with that guy. Actually, it's a consistent theme with their entire offensive line.
He's the best pass blocking guard in the league. That's not even a debate.
So you're right. You want to look at the interior offensive line and how we're going to perform there. I would say look for, because you see these guys in these interviews during the week, you know that they want to wear you down throughout the game. Look for third, fourth quarter interior offensive linemen trying to wear this guy the fuck down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get him wore out and get past him. Keanu Benton is no slouch. I talked about it earlier in the season with you, Chris. We expect him to have a phenomenal year. We've been on him for a while. So with Keanu, with Cam, you got
DeMarvin Leal out there.
Leal, that's another one. He's already talking. Loudermilk has played so good. Loudermilk has hit spots that he gets to his spot, fills that hole. That's all they're asking him to do, and he's doing his job, man. He's doing a great job.
Isaiah Loudermilk has really come in and become a good depth piece for us, somebody that can rotate in and out and get the job done. I like him a lot. We like Ogunjobi a lot out of training camp. Yeah, Ogunjobi back from injury last year is huge for us because they can rotate him in and out with Cam. Same thing with Keanu Benton. He's a dog. He's coming into his own. He's going to be the next Cam Hayward. You watch, you bookmark it. I feel excited, guys. We've got good guys, okay?
Another thing to keep an eye on is watch JPJ on Pittman Jr. Pittman Jr.'s been struggling this season. He's only got
Yeah.
88 yards through 3 games.
Yeah, you expect the here's what you want them to go in, you want them to dominate, and you want them to come out healthy, and that's what we're looking for.
On defense, it's going to be a battle of the trenches. On the other side of the ball, it should be a lot more lopsided towards our favor.
Yeah, I expect a big offensive day. I want, just them to continue building off what they've got, opening the playbook up a little bit more for Justin, letting him throw the ball down the field a little bit more. And I think they've already talked about how sometimes it just hasn't worked out in their favor because of coverage or, whatever it's been. So penalties have been a lot of the explosive plays have been called back from penalties. Speaking of which, let me get into that. The officiating crew for the Colts Steelers game is it's a Land Clark. That's Land Clark officiating crew. Land. Listen, I'm telling you right now, this dude the crew calls offensive holding far too much. They call off false starts far too much. They have a roughing the passer penalty that they pretty much lead. They're above average in throwing penalties. Besides Bleekman's crew, which we've already had earlier in the season, Denver game, this is the second crew for the most penalties so far. With that being said, you look for, okay, it's on the road, but you got literally the biggest star in the NFL. Look for Watt to get a couple flags thrown his way on Sunday, I would say. He'll dominate early. They'll catch him, and then it's on from there. They'll give him the first one, they'll give him the second one maybe, and then from there on he's gonna dictate the game is what I expect.
He's an absolute wrecker. You can't go out onto the football field and not consider that TJ Watt's going to wreck you or wreck the game in some way.
Well, like I said, this crew is already known for throwing that flag. So I think what's going to happen early is TJ Watt's going to get a win right away. They're going to flag it because they're going to hold him. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he gets the sack, but they're going to hold him. It's going to be seen. Flag comes out early. And then after that, the kid's going to stop holding and letting him go by, and then TJ Watt's just going to have one of them days. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he has like a big day, but I expect TJ Watt will definitely be the second fastest guy to 100 sacks or whatever that.
That should be coming this week.
Well, he's a half sack out, I think.
I was just about to say he's only half sack back, which would have been the half sack that would have broken Michael Strahan's record the 2020 season, but we're not going to talk about that.
I was mad. I was like, what are you?
We're still mad.
Currently employed their 2 all-time sack leaders, top 2.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
Cam Hayward, he just went over James Harrison, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful done. Well done, Cam. It's been a great career so far. We look forward to watching you hoist a Lombardi trophy.
Yes, we do. Any predictions for the Colts game?
I think don't have to be anything specific, but I'd like to say Justin Fields continues with the trend of throwing the ball well and putting the team in position to score points. I think he'll have another 2 touchdowns at least with another 250 yards passing. This time might be two touchdowns through the air and another one ran in, maybe 3 in the air, another one ran in. I think he's going to have a good game. With the NFL and the way the time clock rolls on, sometimes these big 4, 5, 6, 7 touchdown games don't happen for every team that don't run offenses like that. Pittsburgh runs to run the clock off. So you expect them to have a 2 or 3 touchdown game is a damn good game in the way that they run a game, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah. We run a pretty conservative offense most of the time.
We want to score touchdowns, but we want to take as much time off when we do it. That's always been how it's been since I can remember.
Yeah.
That's how Mike Tomlin likes to play football. So my prediction would just be another good 2 touchdown game for Justin Fields, 250 yards, solid game. What do you think, Chris?
I think Fields win now.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that the years of us blowing games to teams we should beat the fuck out of are done. I think you could tell in Cam Hayward's podcast this week when he talked about it, he already knew what kind of roasting was going to be going on, in the film study this week because he already watched that film and knew he got beaten at Indy game last year. He said he ain't going to let it happen again. And after the way these boys have played for the first 3 weeks, there's no reason to doubt them now.
I got 29 Steelers, 20-9. I think it's a low-scoring game for the defense again, under 10 points again. I think they get a better offense, especially against a bad run defense, and should be able to take advantage of some of their injuries.
Anson, what you think, brother?
I'm going to keep it realistic here. Anthony Richardson's no slouch. They do have Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce. These guys can move the ball down the field. So I'm going to say that Steelers win in a 21-20 shootout.
Got you.
Close
I
game,
guess
close
I didn't
game.
make an official score prediction, so let me think. I said they was going to whoop their ass. I really believe that, so I'm going to go 27-9, Pittsburgh.
Hope we see that.
Yeah, I think
Honestly,
we'll-
we
I
kind
hope
of saw
we
that
see that
against the
too.
Chargers, not for nothing. They
Oh
could
yeah,
have.
and the Chargers are a better football team, so it's not impossible. And Pittsburgh has already won twice on the road this year, in more difficult venues. So you don't expect them to be afraid or to shout or live in their fears, as Coach Tomlin would say. You don't expect that.
Everything on paper points to us winning this game by a large margin. I just
Yeah.
want to
But it
keep
is the
my
NFL,
expectations
and
low and my reality close by.
and it is the NFL, and I'd like to also make a point that, and I've said this to Chris, I'm not always going to pick the Steelers to win the football game. There's situations coming up here soon, during the holidays where Pittsburgh's going to play a bunch of games real quick, and I'll be shocked if they run through that 3-game stretch there in 10 days and win all 3. So I'm going to have to take some serious, but I do think they beat Cleveland twice. I think they beat Baltimore once, and I think they beat Cincinnati twice. So I think Baltimore is a great football team, and I don't want to discount that team at all by any means. I think that they're young, or they're not young, but it's early on in the season. I'd like to give they're 2-1. They're 1-2. They're 1-2. Room to grow.
1-2.
1-2. Room to grow. I think
disagree on that one.
I have them beating Dallas, right? They play Dallas this weekend.
They do beat Dallas this weekend.
Yeah, I have them beating Dallas. Baltimore
Dallas is not
will
going
be.
to have Micah Parsons.
Yeah, no,
Dallas inches happen.
no,
What am I
Baltimore.
thinking?
I'm sorry. What am I thinking? Who does Baltimore got coming up next week?
Baltimore,
Do you know?
don't they? Or not? Dallas, don't they?
Yeah. No, we got Dallas.
Yeah,
No, we have Dallas after this week. I think Baltimore plays Dallas this week, don't they?
Anyways,
They got the Bills.
that's
No.
it. That's who I
Week.
picked. I have them beating the Bills
Okay,
this week.
yeah. Yes.
They're beating the Bills at home this week. Baltimore will, to get back to where they need to go. I have that prediction.
That might be game of the week. That might be game of the week.
I'm serious. I already called it. It's on my Twitter. I believe that too. I think Baltimore.
I think we're going about to stomp them. That might just be
I think Baltimore is built to beat Buffalo, just like Pittsburgh is now built to beat Buffalo. We're built to beat that team.
So next week on the Wandering Ninjas, either Lance makes fun of Chris or Chris makes fun of Lance.
I mean, they're not getting blown out 45-10 like the Jaguars did. Let's be real here on that.
No.
Baltimore is not built to get beat at that bad because I honestly believe, Lamar can throw the ball if he has to. Obviously, he missed a couple passes in that first game, but he also kept them right there within a 6. He took them right down to the last second. Yeah. Lamar's not the necessarily the problem there. Anyways,
is this Lamar support on the Wandering Yinzers podcast?
It is.
I will not stand for this.
It is far less about me supporting a team as it is I'm saying Lamar Jackson's. I give him props. I like the way he plays football. It's fun to watch. Anyone that doesn't,
he's a great
anyone
player.
that doesn't is just bullshitting. He's a fun player to
Once
watch.
he has a winning record.
Oh, trust me, I tell his fans they can all eat my ass, but yeah.
But
Lamar is a good baller.
For a different podcast.
That's a different type of conversation.
Maybe someday he'll get his second win against the Steelers or third win, whatever it is.
Third win.
Yeah, maybe. Did you see what I said to that one fan? I was like, Baltimore hasn't won a meaningful game since what, 2013, 2012?
It's true.
Chris, you're there you go. You're back.
Man.
He's back. Baby, come back.
Fellas, I gotta take off. I didn't realize what time it was. It slipped away from me. You guys can feel free to keep going or wrap up the show, whatever you want to do, but I'm taking off.
Right on.
All right, everybody say goodbye to Chris. We'll talk to you. Hey, have a good one, Chris. Good talking to you, man.
Take it easy, fellas.
Later.
But yeah, the only thing I got left, man, is really just Anthony Richardson. The potential he has is insane. And we talked a little bit about it. I know we've kind of gotten off topic a bunch here at the end because I've been having some fun with it. But, Anthony Richardson is an NFL football player, and he has the ability to throw the ball down the field and influence the end game.
Yeah, Cam Newton-esque, he's a big body. He can run the ball if he needs to. He's good in space running the ball. And he's also dangerous with his arm, and he can rip the ball downfield with his arm. I'll tell you what, man. That first game that they played in Indianapolis, when he ripped it like 65 yards down to Alec Pierce, and he caught it down.
I watched it. It was in the air it was in the air forever. It was insane.
He reminds me a lot with his arm talent. He reminds me of Brett Favre a lot. He's got that kind of a feeling to him, but can run the ball like Cam.
Yeah. So, I guess with that being said, Pittsburgh has to contain the explosives, which we've already talked about, and then do a good job of creating their own. And then, I don't think like a lot of real fans that you look at this game and think Pittsburgh can't easily win it. But, years past have shown you that sometimes a Mike Tomlin team could go in a little lackluster, some penalties can go the other way, and before you know it, you're losing a game to the fucking, shitty Patriots.
Right.
So
I think that we might be Tomlin loss proof this year. I really do. I think that we've got the offense now that can support the defense, and the inverse has always been true. Our defense has carried us for years and years,
right?
And it's been the offense that has struggled, and now it feels like we can balance it out and prevent those Tomlin losses.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much sums up this week's episode. For me, at least, we kind of know what we got heading into next week. I think one of the things I'd like to mention before we get off of this episode is that I'd like to mention that I have a guest that we will be introducing next week, just as a part of our podcast. It's an interview I'd like to make with a former, with a friend of mine who used to be my platoon sergeant in the Marine Corps. I'd like for him to speak to some of the mentorship that is involved with the military and how, bringing up young people, and then also how that can relate to seeing some of the things that we've seen in the media today. For instance, we have been hearing a lot of conversation about Josh Gordon. And so I'd like my buddy to come in and speak a little bit to his experiences with mentoring young men, and how that can how he can see some correlation between that and what maybe Josh Gordon had gone through, and just speak to a little bit of Josh Gordon's greatness, because let's be real here. Anybody that watched football back when Gordon was playing will tell you he was very talented.
Hell of a player.
So we'd like to give him a little bit of his flowers, on top of also speaking to maybe somebody that's a little younger, that's going through some hard times, might need to seek somebody that give you a little bit of mentorship and put you on the right path. Because that's what we're about here, is making better people and just having fun, and talking a little shit, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we want everyone to be their best version of themselves, and I think I have a good person that can come and speak to that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and that'll be next week that we have him on.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to him on Saturday next week, and we'll either record that before the session and add it to the end of the podcast as a sort of an unlive clip, or we can do that during the live stream. We'll talk about that more as the week goes on, but he plans on being on next Saturday for sure. Yeah.
Well, then, with all that said, thank you guys so much for listening to the Wandering Yinzers podcast. You can find me on X at Yinzer Anson. You can find Lance on X at Steel City Lance. You can find Chris on X at Chris_Furland. And be sure to check out our community page, the hashtag Wandering Yinzers podcast. You're locked in and listening to the Wandering Yinzers podcast, hosted by Anson, Lance, and Chris. You can find them on X at Yinzer Anson, at Steel City Lance, and at Chris_Furland. Check out our community page with the hashtag Wandering Yinzers to stay up to date with all things Steelers.